This video gives the main informations for quickly starting to use the Advanced Calculations tool, enabling to perform the analysis of an optical system. Even if you can reach freely some pages, using Advanced Calculations requires to be logged. You can access the Advanced Calculations tool by clicking on the Advanced Calculations button and then on System Analysis. You are then redirected to a page by default. The top of an advanced calculation page is always the same. It contains an input menu and an output menu. The input menu is a drop-down menu proposing different input sets and redirecting to input pages relevant to the selected set. The output menu is made of several buttons categorizing the calculations to perform. Each button is a drop-down menu enabling to directly perform the selected calculation. At the top right, the button Save Upload redirects to a page for saving the input parameters that you just have entered or to upload input parameters from a previous session. Let's come back to the input menu. Among the different set of input parameters, 4 must necessarily be defined. These ones are the number of surfaces, the surface parameters, the aperture fields, and the wavelengths. The page displayed by default is the one enabling to enter the number of surfaces. You can remark that actually 2 surfaces are already entered because the system by default is initially defined as soon as you are logged. It is a single lens. The maximum number of surfaces is 22 for premium license and 5 for student licenses. Once the number of surfaces is entered, you have to click on the surface parameters link and then on the mandatory parameters title to display the main input table. In this table, you can define the basic parameters of your system, like the radius of curvature, the refraction index of the medium after the surface, the distance to the next surface, and so on. Some selections can also be made that request to enter further parameters in other tables of the page. Then, the aperture of the system has to be specified. It is the diaphragm limiting the number of rays that can propagate. The fields have also to be defined. They are the points of the object surface from which the light rays are launched. Finally, the wavelengths that will be used in the calculations must be entered. Note that information tooltips are available at the top of each input table. They are displayed once the mouse hovers over the beige buttons About and Caution. A tutorial button is also displayed. About gives details on the parameters to be entered. Caution gives recommendations on how to fill the input cells. Tooltips may be longer than the screen. It is then possible to display them in a separate page by clicking on the relevant button instead of hovering the mouse over it. The tutorial button redirects to a separate tutorial page giving more details on the parameters of the table and, when necessary, on the way they are used in calculations. Tutorials are also proposed for each calculation accessible from the output menu. The tutorial relevant to a given calculation can be reached by clicking on the tutorial link just below and shifted on the right. It gives information on the relevant calculation and on the eventual optional parameters that can be used to perform it. In some cases, the tutorial details the tricks and traps to avoid. This video doesn't provide all the information on the advanced calculations, constraints, and features. Therefore, it is recommended to look at a dedicated guide and at the various tutorials offered in the different input pages, as well as the ones available for the diverse calculations. Thank you for your attention.